Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. It's paint and chat time. The topic today, how to make an old world army from the new Age of Sigmar Chaos Dwarf range while painting a classic 1980s Chaos Dwarf, a really old one as well.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Make sure you check out their Old World compatible range. It's expanding all the time. New ranges are being added soon. Look at these fantastic generals tokens to help those of you who are forgetful remember in-game effects and spells and things like that. And look at these Old World Legacy Army token sets as well. Again, more of these are being added all the time and very nice they are. Check out the link in the video description.
So before we get stuck into the new Chaos Dwarf stuff and the chat part of this video, this is a 1985 Perry Twins, I believe, sculpt, Cardang the Bloodsucker, or Mate number 5. I think I'm not going to take you through all of the paints and things I use. I will hold the paints up before I do. If you ask me a question in the comments about it, I'll try and remember and answer it, but I might not be able to. I'm not thinking of this as a painting tutorial, so to speak. So if you like the painting side, keep an eye on what's going on the screen for that part, or at least that half of the screen anyway. So what's the purpose of this video anyway? I wanted to look at the Chaos Dwarfs Legacy Army list and look at the new Age of Sigmar Chaos Dwarves and see how many of them could be used to fill all the slots in that roster and maybe fill the gaps with other miniatures from the Games Workshop range. Now, I appreciate there are 3D printed options out there. There are other alternatives. Magnet Games do them and all of that stuff. And by all means, put that in the comments. But the whole point of this video is to see what you can do from GW. And the reason I have that mindset for myself is because I do like to play games at Warhammer World. I appreciate these won't be available to be played at Warhammer World tournaments because it's a legacy army, they're not allowed, but I play more casual games and things anyway, and I love a day out there, and I quite like a project with Citadel miniatures. That's my thought process. That's where I'm coming from. So I know there's alternatives, but I'm not looking at those alternative brands or versions or 3D prints for the purposes of this video, but I am interested in it for you to put in the comments. I think we can start off with the characters first. So we've got the Sorcerers of Hashut, and we have the Infernal Guard Commanders, and we have the Bull Center on Taruk, and we also have the big beasties they can ride on, but I'm going to cover those at the end. I think the new miniatures cover you fairly well here. So you've got the new character that's in that new starter set. Forgive me, I haven't remembered all of their names from the article. And we have the sorcerers as well. And I think there's going to be many different ways of converting these and changing them into different things. The commander with his big sort of double-ended halberd, that could very easily be turned into a BSB. Just by reposing it, or even just by trimming the top off and sticking a banner on it. That's a really simple conversion. Same with the sorcerer as well. You can change the flames in his hands and maybe reposition his head or swap heads with other miniatures. So it'll be quite easy to get a couple of different versions out of it as well. And then you've got the extra options as well as different miniatures. The one with a little hammer you can see on the screen now. You make a different new character. You could use them as either, I think. And you've also got the Underworlds box as well, and they've got some different sculpts in there that you could use as characters. I think for standard characters, quite well set up there. You could quite easily fill your slots. And when it comes to your Bull Center characters, I think you're going to be using one of the standard Bull Center miniatures, the new versions of them, and then maybe doing a conversion, swapping that waist up part for one of those other character miniatures. That's where my mind goes to start with. In fact, if we take a look at the Blood of the Bull Underworlds set, I think the two guys that are fairly central there, again, will make really, really good characters. And I'd definitely be looking to pick these up if I do this project in the end. Really, really good. And you got the guy with the little banner as well, or the sort of the blade on the longer pole there, whether it's a spear or a halberd, I'm not sure. But again, you've got another option there for some kind of BSB thing going on. So I definitely think we are really well covered with your characters, at least on foot. They're going to require maybe a little bit of conversions if you want to turn them into a bull centaur or something like that, but I'm sure one of them will be absolutely fine for it. For the Hobgoblin Khan, I think there's a few options there. And for me, it would be just minor conversions with a bit of a head swap. And you can go all the way to the Old World Goblin characters and do head swaps there, but I quite like the AOS range for it as well. And you got Drogs the Sun Chomper, swap his head over, maybe trim some of the sort of the extra little bits off and make it look a little bit less AOS-y, and I think that would work quite well. Quite an expensive miniature, but again, I think it's a pretty cool one. I'd also be really tempted just to use the Snarl Bus Wolfgit retinue. They're slightly sort of posher Goblin Wolf Riders. Again, head swap probably. I'm assuming at this stage there will be extra heads left over from the Hobgoblin type miniatures in the AOS range, and then you swap one of those heads over, it may well do the job. But a couple of options there. That's the way I would be looking if I needed a Hobgoblin character. Of course, that's assuming they're going to be mounted. They're not always going to be mounted. You've got the Hobgrot Slitter Boss as well, which is you could just straight up use him as a Hobgoblin foot character as well. So a good option there. You could also convert him with some of those mounted troops as well, even if you steal his head or something or the other. So next up's the bulk of the infantry, really. So we have the Infernal Ironsworn and we have the Infernal Guard. I'm going to talk about them at the same time because I think it fits in with the new miniatures at the same time. Now, I'll say this up front here, and I've noticed a lot of the commentary, things in the comments of my initial video and commentary in some of the groups and things. I think it's worth remembering that these are Age of Sigmar miniatures designed by the AOS sculptors for AOS. Okay, so they are the new version of what Chaos Dwarfs were. So they're inspired by. They're not Chaos Dwarfs, and some of the critique of them, while very fair, maybe loses the point that they're not designed to be for Old World. I've seen a few comments that people just in their whole tone and cadence of the critique is, but they haven't got this, but they haven't got that. That's because they're not designed to do what you want them to. They're designed to work as a new faction for Age of Sigmar. And I think it's important to keep that in mind when you're making a critique. And at the end of it, the conclusion is that these aren't the way I want my Chaos Dwarfs to look, then you have to go back and look at something else. And as I said, this video is about me working out whether you can build an army using these miniatures, and with that, by using these miniatures, you'll bring in a lot of that aesthetic with it, and you have to be happy with that. So there's nothing wrong with not liking that, but also there's no point in quibbling over the things that don't exist around it, because it's just pointless, isn't it? Because they are what they are, and that includes not having beards on some of them. And I love the Chaos Dwarf with a beard, and I'd green stuff a few beards on some of these, but I also don't mind a couple don't, and I don't mind if they're supposed to be female. There was one commenter, and yes, I'm going to go there. There was one commenter on the previous video that suggested that female Chaos Dwarfs wouldn't be in the front line or shouldn't be in the front line. I don't know if he thinks they should be at home baking. I don't know if Chaos Dwarfs are into knitting, but I haven't really got a lot of time for those kind of conversations. This is a fantasy game, and these miniatures, as I've said, are designed for Age of Sigmar, where Games Workshop have created their own law that says there are female Chaos Dwarfs in the front line. It's as simple as that. Again, don't like them, don't use those miniatures. Put some beards on them if you want to. But back to the point in hand, I think these are pretty good as core troops, and we'll cover both those main units. You've got lots of different weapon options. Like I said, we don't know how many we're going to get of each, but there's going to be enough ways of building these miniatures, I believe, to cover most of the options. You're going to have to do some kit bashing. You're going to have to delve into other kits as well, but you've got options for halberds. There are some longer looking weapons. You've got options for great weapons. I'm sure some of them could count as great weapons. Maybe you're not going to use the shields and things. I don't know, but they're going to take some work. But I think the core body, literally the body and the legs and the heads and things, are a really nice starting point to work from, and I'd definitely be happy trying to build an army from them myself. Likewise with the Infernal Guard as well. If you're taking the ranged options, I think the options that are in those kits are pretty good as well. Again, lack of beards maybe somewhere along the lines, deal with it. But I think you paint them differently than the Age of Sigmar ones. I really like the paint schemes on these, by the way, but I've seen a lot of people airbrushing, repainting them on Photoshop, using reds and using more of a pink skin and things, and they do look more Chaos Dwarfish, but paint schemes do a huge amount of heavy lifting. And again, I think these have got lots and lots of potential, and they feel like somewhere in between the old school ones and the ones that Forge World did, of which I like all of them. I like all these different eras of Chaos Dwarfs. It's just prohibitively expensive to get the Forge World ones, if you can still get hold of them, that are actually genuine and not just recast. And the old sculpts are just crazy prices on eBay. So at least this gives people who have a normal budget, not a rich budget. I don't know, they're still going to be pretty expensive, aren't they? Even with Age of Sigmar, but we'll call it a normal budget. I think it gives people the normal budget a chance to use them and play with them. The Kadai Fireborn are the first real head scratch, because there's nothing in the new release that kind of works with that. I'm not sure what people are using at the moment too much. I've seen some people using Mantic Games sort of fire elementals, which makes lots of sense. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm trying to keep to using some Games Workshop miniatures. It was very close to just saying, well, there isn't anything, go and sort this out. But that's not really in the spirit of what I'm trying to do with this video. So partly put it in the comments, because someone's going to have a better idea than me. But I was flicking through the Games Workshop website, struggling with it because it crashes every time you try to zoom in and things if you try and do it too quickly. I had to prove I was a human twice just because I was trying to get their website to work. But I quite like the War Cry Pyregeists. So bear with me. So you've got flames and things on there. You're going to want to trim lots of it off. Again, I'm hoping that there's going to be some spares, some bits left over in the main box, some extra heads or something like that you could mount in place of the normal skeletal heads, and then paint them as if they're all sort of on fire and things. And if you go and search out copies, in fact, I'll try and put a image on there now of the Forge World-ish ones. Again, you've got that kind of fire all over the place, but some sort of Chaos Dwarfy sort of face or bit of a helmet on some of them. I don't know, I feel like you could probably use the paint them like they're on fire, use the flames like they're on fire, but stick in a couple of Chaos Dwarf heads in there and paint that as kind of an elemental fire thing going on. Might be crazy, but I'd be tempted to go down that route if I'm trying to stick with all Games Workshop miniatures. For the Hobgoblin Cutthroats and Sneaky Gets, I think we've got a similar thing going on to the standard troops. There's some beautiful new miniatures, in my opinion, and they're in lots of different poses with lots of different weapons. And I'm not sure how many spares are going to be in the box, how many different build options, so you may have some issues with that. Your standard Cutthroats, I think, come with hand weapons and shields anyway. There's definitely shields on some of them, and there's definitely hand weapons going on, so I don't see there being a major issue. The Sneaky Gets, there's definitely a few sort of shorter swords or daggers, but again, you might have to delve into bit spots, might have to get some Orc and Goblin bits. I think a lot of the time would be a nice place to kind of steal bits from. Obviously, you're going to be stealing bits from dwarf kits as well, maybe, but I think you can do it. Again, without seeing the kits in hand and knowing how many spares you get, I'm not quite sure how much kit bashing you're going to have to do in terms of weaponry. But I don't think kit bashing weaponry should be really too hard for anyone who's going to try and take on a project like this. And also, if I'm playing someone with an army like this, and the odd weapon may be doesn't look like a great weapon, but it's not quite great, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Personally, it's not the way I game. I think the armies will just look great painted that way anyway, but I really like these miniatures. Definitely feel like you can do a lot of heavy lifting with them, and you might need them for artillery crews and things as well. So having extras of these will be pretty handy. They don't look like they're in a box. Looks like they're going to be a separate second kit. It looks like it's second wave. You get your initial box with all the main starter bit, and this was the second part of the reveal, wasn't it, on the Friday, and they showed some extra miniatures. So I think that'll be great. I think there's loads and loads of possibilities, and you can probably cover most of your things. Hopefully there's enough spare heads and things to go on your Hobgoblin riders and stuff, which we're coming up to next. So for the Wolf Riders, I really like the Snarl Fang Riders, and we've already looked at some of the other Wolf Riders about the characters earlier. You could just straight up use these, to be honest with you. They've got enough of an AOS aesthetic to the goblins about them that they're different from Warhammer goblins a little bit, and so you could just use them. I'd be tempted to try and do something with the heads again, just stealing spare heads, hopefully, of all of those new Hogrot kits, and using those. Other than that, I'd maybe file off the odd little bit of iconography there that fits with the Gloomspite kits, but other than that, I think they would be pretty good, and I'd be very tempted. So that'd be a kit I'd definitely be picking up if and when I do this project. Bull Centaurs, I think they're pretty straightforward. You've got two builds of the new miniatures. I really like both builds, to be honest with you, so you can sort of choose how you do it, I suppose. Hopefully you can sort of mix and match it. They come with hand weapons and light armor, I think, standard. I quite like the non-helmeted builds, but you could maybe do a bit of a mix between the two, and maybe if you have more than one unit, you could have them in two different styles. But I think they are great, loads of potential. One of the things that really makes Chaos Dwarfs possible again, because these were hard to do without spending lots of money. So I don't think we've got any problems there using those new miniatures for characters, but then also for the standard unit as well. So now we have the Iron Demon. That's probably the other thing that there isn't a kind of an easy direct just use this kind of thing with a minor conversion. You could just go crazy and go for the big new beastie, and go concept, and some people hate it because it's not Warhammer the Old World themed enough. And some people won't care. I'll just say it's cool, it's a construct, whatever. I don't actually care either way. I probably wouldn't just use it as it is for my own personal aesthetics and what I'd look for an army. But it's definitely there as an option, and it would be a big, cool kit. And it'd be nice to know whether the bits will be available, because the cannons would be really useful for a conversion for it. But I'm not sure you want to be buying the whole kit just for the cannon arms. Other things you could do is just get a couple of the new cannon, and maybe stick them together, beef it up a little bit to make it look like something a bit more than just the sort of your standard cannon there. So that would be tempting as well. Hence looking at the arms on that other big creature. I do like the back of the sort of new cannon. I think that would be useful. But again, we don't know how much these are going to be on their own, so it could get crazy. But a couple of those kit bashed together would be good. I would be swapping out the wheels, and we'll cover that a little bit later on as well. But the other option, I suppose, is you go for something like the Ironwell Great Cannon, again, and maybe kit bash it with one of the new cannons as well. So just certain parts of it. You got older looking wheels on there as well. You could kit bash it with the new Chaos Dwarf cannon thing. I don't know. Who knows? I think you've got options. I wouldn't lose any sleep over. I think there are plenty of kits out there that you could do a bit of a kit bash together. Even look at the Chaos cannon that looked quite phallic. I forget the name of it now because we don't talk about Demons of Chaos very much. But there are options you could use. Maybe even the Chaos Chariot wheels and some of the body of that you could swap over. But I think there are options. I wouldn't lose sleep over it. It's definitely nowhere near as beautiful as the old Forge World one. I'd be tempted to, saving some money, maybe building up, using these new plastics for all the inventory. I'd be looking on eBay to see if I could afford one of the beautiful old Forge World models, I think. So let's keep talking about the artillery as we're here now. And I think you've got those two new kits, and you've also got the old Hell Cannon, which is available from the Warriors of Chaos range as well. So those are your 3 kits that you can use for them. I think the rocket launcher is straightforward. You've got your new rocket launcher kit there, and then you're making your choice with the others, maybe whether you're converting them or just using them as they are. But you've got options there, and so I don't know which I'd do. I'd probably try to pick up them all and sort of mess around with them, if I'm honest with you. You've got options. I don't think it's going to be a problem for you to cover it on the table using the Games Workshop kits. And then when it comes to the Hobgoblin bolt thrower, I'd just pick up a Goblin bolt thrower, if I'm honest with you, and use those Hobgrots as crew. Hoping you've got enough of those bits. I think you'll be picking up multiple sets to use for the different weapons, and maybe still some heads, like I mentioned, for some of the other conversions. So I'd hope that you'd have a couple left over that would be suitable for crew there as well. I'm not going to attempt to price any of this up now, but it definitely feels workable for everything so far. So let's talk about those 2 really big character mounts, which are so iconic in the game, and the new miniatures, clearly inspired by them, are beautiful as well. And some people will love these, some people won't. These are going to be incredibly Marmite, I think. So from a practical point of view, you've got a great Taurus and you've got a Lamassu to cover for the game, and you have 2 ways of building. I'm guessing this is a single kit. 2 ways of building this kit, and you can cover them both, and they'll be easy to distinguish between on the table, and you're fine, I think, as far as gaming goes. So it's really down to whether you're happy with them looking like they're made out of metal rather than looking like they're organic. I really prefer the organic stuff, but also I'd be tempted just to lean into the fact that these are really stunning miniatures and just go with it. Again, it's going to be a concept-y, more modern-looking army using all the kits that you are anyway. So I'd be tempted just to say, look, it's too hard to change these and make them anything else. You could maybe look at doing a head swap somewhere, but it's very hard to know without seeing the scale of them next to other things. I'm looking at other kits like the Kragnos. I have no idea how big his head would look. I imagine it would be far too small to use. It's difficult. It's definitely difficult. You could look at something like Scarbrand and converting the head on there for a Lamassu maybe. So you've got that different style head, especially green stuffing, some more beard on there. If you could pick up a Scarbrand head without having to buy the whole kit, because that would be insane just for that. It's not easy, but it might be something that would be worth looking at. But I do love those new kits. I think they're going to be stunning as it is anyway. So if now I'd probably be looking at what kind of list do I want to run. If you wanted to run a very Hobgoblin heavy list, lots of infantry, actually it's quite easy, I think, to make it look more old worldish. The more you have to lean into those big beasties, the less it's going to look like that, and the more you're going to encounter those problems. One of the things that I would consider doing, I suppose, if I decide to go and do this, and I've already mentioned it a little bit, really leaning into using the new miniatures for all the infantry and a bit of the artillery, but then not worrying so much about investing and saving up and picking up those really nice, like the Iron Demon, some of those really nice old artillery pieces, and maybe if trying to find one of the original Lamassu or something, whether they look too small, I don't know. But I'd probably just get the new kit, if I'm honest with you. So that's it, really. I think we can pretty much cover everything that's in the roster as it currently stands, and find a way of doing it. And I know everything's not a perfect match or a perfect fit, but if you remove that AOS line, you are talking crazy eBay prices, crazy out of production prices for Forge World stuff, or picking up recasts, of which the market seems to probably be flooded with them now. You never really seem to see them sort of that are clearly definitely Forge World available on eBay, so you'd always got to be a bit risky there, and the prices again are absolutely crazy. Is that what you're using third party? And again, if that's not a problem for you, then fine. But again, the whole point of this paint and chat was to sort of just discuss really and get it through in my head. Or if I do this, is it going to be workable? And I think it probably will be. I think there will be a lot of weapon swapping and stuff. But I think the infantry, with a bit of work on them, would look so good. And if you can do a bit of green stuff, and you can put some beards and things to really sort of make them look a little bit more Chaos Dwarfy, I think it could be stunning. It does work though. You don't need to have loads and loads of modelling skill. It does work just to buy those kits and with very minimal weapon swaps and still have a nice looking army. So I think anyone now can play Chaos Dwarfs. There's enough here that you can just say, that's it, without doing all of the conversions I mentioned. If I'm going to do it in the future, and it really will depend on my hobby bandwidth at the time with all the other projects, but if there happens to be a gap around the time that these come out and I'm excited about it, you never know. But if I do it, I will probably do a little bit more of the converting. I just think these will look great all on square bases in ranked up units. Those Hobgoblins and those Chaos Dwarfs will be brilliant, and then I would make the other bits work, and I would have to write a list, I suppose, and find out whether I need the new Lamassu or whether I need the new Taurus, or etc. etc. But they're all pretty good. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope that's helped some of you who are thinking about maybe making a Chaos Dwarf army for the old world now. I'm sure many of you are on it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing all your suggestions in the comments about things I've missed out on or miniatures that are perfect for it. And by all means, put alternative miniatures in there as well. Not everyone needs things to be Citadel or Games Workshop made. Of course, there's loads of alternative options out there, but I really wanted to make this video focus around using plastics from that Age of Sigmar range as much as possible, so things you can pick up directly from Games Workshop. So should you want to play them at Warhammer World, you could. Of course, they're a legacy army, so they're not going to be available in any official events, but still, if you wanted to go down there for casual gaming, you would be allowed to play them at your official Games Workshop locations, so to speak, as well. Plus, I think they're a fun way of doing it. Not the only way of doing it, but it is a fun range, and I wanted to sort of chat about that a little bit more after my initial reaction video. And also, I had this beautiful Chaos Dwarf miniature that I didn't really need to do anything with other than have in my collection, but I wanted to get paint on him, and this was the perfect excuse to paint him up and add him to my cabinet along with other cool things that I've got in there. So hopefully you've enjoyed the format. I know previously when I've used this paint and chat format, it's been quite popular, so I will occasionally use this format to talk about a topic or something while painting away and not giving you a traditional painting tutorial. And I guess that's just a reminder, if you're still here at the end and you're going to comment, please tell me what paints and things you use for that. If I can remember, I will do. Happy to answer questions, but I will, show you things during the filming process, holding up paints to the camera and stuff. But again, it's not supposed to be a painting tutorial. You can pick up stuff by watching, but it's supposed to be a means to discuss the topic in hand. But of course, if you have enjoyed the video and you're still here, please do drop a comment below and give it a like. It really helps out, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you'd like to support me to help me keep making content like this, then please do consider supporting me on Patreon. There's a link in the video description. Multiple different tiers to suit different needs, whether you just want to support me or whether you'd like painting, coaching and tuition. Lots of different options there for you. Check out the channel sponsor as well, Counterattack Bases, and all the other affiliate links that I have in the video description, including money off at Cavalry, airbrushes and Knott's Hobbies as well. So they're well worth checking out those links. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.